Welcome to another empowering episode of Strive 365, your go-to source for conquering life's challenges and thriving no matter the odds. Whether you're seeking mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual growth, we're here to help guide you toward a better life. I'm your host, Justin Arnold, coming to you from the amazing Rockbox studio. Today we have my friend and guest, Amanda Fite. She is a licensed massage therapist, Reiki and hypnosis practitioner, and the heart behind Form Massage Therapy and Integrative Health. With an impressive career spanning more than 2 decades, I think I've known her for about a decade of that, Amanda has honed her skills in a variety of healing modalities, all rooted in her deep passion for understanding the human body and mind. Her journey is marked by a commitment to continuous learning, from achieving a 1,000-hour certification in massage therapy to becoming a certified personal trainer and diving deep in the realms of hypnotherapy and Reiki. Beyond her technical expertise, Amanda brings a holistic approach to her practice, emphasizing the importance of connecting with spirit and the power of gratitude in her daily routine. She strives not only to heal, but to educate and empower her clients, family, and friends through her dedication to wellness and self-care. So join us as we delve into Amanda's inspiring journey, her approach to integrative bodywork, movement, human behavior, how she continues to evolve both personally and professionally in the field of integrative health, and probably a number of other cool things, since I love this girl and I've known her for a while. So Amanda, with your nearly 2 decades and all your experiences, man, tell me more. Share what drew you into this, this field, and how you got to where you are in integrative work and body work.
Yeah. So my first love is massage therapy. I tried going to college, and over at St. John Fisher, it just wasn't for me, and that was fine. Took a semester off and went to massage school when I was 19 years old. And the love of anatomy and science and body work and being able to help people heal themselves with touch, I mean, it just drew me right in. So my sister is a massage therapist. That is how I got introduced to massage in the first place. And she really fostered that love of science as well, starting right out of the gate, which was amazing. And we continue to work together on occasion, but we do things like do continuing education classes together and work on each other and continue to keep that spark and love alive for massage therapy through each other. She's amazing.
That's really cool. So your sister and you work together. Is that, sounds like just peaceful and amazing. I mean, I've got 2 older brothers, so I'm imagining us working together and our business would fail because we'd fight all the time. So this sounds like pure joy. I don't know. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, both of my sisters are great. I would happily work with either one of them. I haven't worked with my sister in a long time. We'll see the occasional client for doubles massages every once in a while when we have a couple of clients that overlap. But when I first started off, I worked in her clinic, in her practice, doing a pregnancy coverage for her and helping her out with a couple of overflow clients. And I would happily work with her all the time if I could, but she's got her own thing going on. I've got my own thing going on. So
yeah. And for those that don't know, Amanda and I met back in the CrossFit days. Mm-hmm. And so that's a little background, but we've both evolved in other realms. What attracted you with everything you're doing into CrossFit?
I was going to school. I was going to college at Brockport and getting my degree in psychology at the time. And I had kind of let my health and wellness go by the wayside, and I saw how it impacted my well-being, my mental health, my fitness level, being able to keep up with just life in general. And I made the pact with myself that I was going to graduate in the best shape of my life. So I was working full time and going to school full time. And then I also started CrossFit just as a way to be in the best shape of my life by the time I graduated from college. So I would say that I did a pretty good job achieving my goal when I was 30 years old. You know, it took 18 months for me to get myself back into shape and feel like I had control of my health and wellness again. But I also knew that if I wanted to keep doing massage, I wasn't going to be able to continue doing massage if I didn't keep up on my health. So,
I mean, I know why that is, but could you share with those that are listening why health is so important, physical health, all that for massage therapy?
Massage is pretty demanding. The work that I do, especially because I have that piece of, I feel like all massage therapists have that piece of being also kind of like a mental health practitioner also, without having the degree and without being able to say that they do that. But if you let that piece, that health piece, go through fitness and eating and taking care of your mental health and making sure that you rest enough. If you let that piece go as a massage therapist, you're going to soak up all that stuff that people bring into your office, number one. Number two, if you don't take care of your physical health, you're just going to not be able to do massage anymore. You need to be strong physically in order to keep up with it.
Yeah, that's such a great point, because when I got into my career, I didn't think about the mental health strain. So you make such a good point. So those are listening are new in any health field, whether it be what I did, which is more personal training and nutrition, and yours within your field. It's like, if you're in that and you're working with people and their emotions and their feelings, it's like, make sure you're managing yours. And you might think, like I thought, I'm doing all the right things. There needs to be layers and levels. I mean, that's where I found different tools, including cold plunge for my mental health and some other stuff. You said 18 months. I like that you threw that number out too. Like you said, 18 months to get back in health. I think people think still it can be quick, and when they don't see it. So even you that has all this knowledge in college, you also were in college, you were working and doing CrossFit. I would say those are three pretty extreme stressors at the point. So how did you manage? Was that how you managed it, or were there other things that you did to manage that?
So I had two really great dogs at the time who are like fur babies that are, my one is just a natural therapy dog. He's like just the best.
What kind of dog is it?
He's a Yorkie Bichon. Yeah, he's the cutest.
Dog people are doing right now.
Long walks in nature, huge deal for
Big
me.
deal.
Yeah, that was like, you don't put the AirPods in, you don't listen to anything. You just allow yourself to be with nature, some sun or rain, like it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I'm one of these people, and I started learning I love walking in the rain because my youngest daughter, who just loves dancing in the rain. Yeah. Sorry, continue. I think that's, people, you should try it.
It's underrated, honestly.
It's totally cool. And then I used to sing that song, Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Like that was me. And I got it from the weirdness of my 8-year-old, and I brought out my weirdness and just enjoy whatever.
Yeah, you just got to immerse yourself, Yeah.
Reading a good book in the rain. Sorry, we're going down like all these, but yeah, no, I mean those, and we've said this like yesterday. I was talking to somebody, and it's amazing how simple sometimes it can be, like the balance of it all. So school, work, CrossFit, walk in nature, or the rain.
Walk in nature, doing a little bit of journaling at that time. Reading for pleasure, not for school, was a big deal for me. Like just picking up a fiction book and reading a few pages of it just to not be immersed in psychology.
Fiction book. Do you have like a set of fictions that you like?
I think at that time I was reading the Harry Potter series.
Why did I feel like you were going to say that?
Yeah.
Like I totally was like, I bet you. Like in my mind. So for me, I don't really read much fiction anymore, but early on in my career and when I was managing, I got into the Dexter series, not the show. I eventually watched a show, but I was like, people are going to think this guy's crazy, but like, I like the idea of a guy who in his mind thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like he came from trauma. I could relate. I was like, okay. and he's only hurting bad people. You know, he's doing good work here. So I don't know.
Quote unquote. Good work.
I know, right? He justified it. I justified it with him.
Yeah.
And the books, like anything else, were really much more deeper. You got to know the psyche of this man and the history of his everything. So I think it's good to, I think that's a great point too. I think so many people, whether you're an entrepreneur, which people like us and people listening, we always think we got to read the next personal development or only do personal development. Like your brain wants to break it down, and it doesn't always have to be a document. Like I go through those nerd phases where I'm only doing personal development, watching documentaries, but it's such a good reminder, like get some fiction and fun in your life.
Something that you enjoy. Even so, like when my stepson was younger, the only thing that we could get him to read was instruction manuals. That's what he loved reading. Like
I get it.
The Grill instruction manual for putting it together. That was his bedside reading for like 3 weeks. That's what he wanted to read. That's what we could get him to read. That's what he liked. And so that's what he read. He did eventually graduate out of the instruction manuals. But
how old was he then?
7, 8, maybe
I wonder
9,
if there's
somewhere in
something there, because around that age, I would read it, not bedside, but I sometimes still to this day catch myself at like soap bottles in the shower, like reading all the labels. Like I'm like 43, and sometimes I'll look like I'm not even like, it's not like I even have time. I'll be down underneath the sink in the bathroom, and I'm like, and then I'll Google this ingredient. Like that's just. Anyways, I wonder if there's something behind that.
I mean, more learning about what's in your environment and your products. And
I've just always been this curious cat.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Anyways.
How do they make this soap?
And what is triglyceride?
Right. 73 letters later. Yeah.
So let's shift gears here for a second. So this show is definitely like talking about people's adversity and how they strive through it. So like whether it be your career, maybe something you faced. I mean, you kind of touch on some things there, but like a pivotal challenge you might have faced, whether early in your career, and maybe how you used it or how it shaped you into possibly massage therapy, hypnotherapy. I mean, I know hypnotherapy wasn't, that's more recent, correct? So maybe there's something there, but go ahead.
Yeah. I actually thought I was going to have to leave massage after I had worked in a salon and spa for about 4 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
They were people who needed you to be booked back to back to back to back with no rest in between.
Like a profit type?
So, yeah. Yep. So if you had a cancellation, they wanted you to be in the back doing something with your time so that they weren't just paying you to be there without getting anything in return.
Exhausting and stressful.
Yeah. So I was doing 35-ish hours of massage a week, which a full-time massage therapist is actually 20 hours of massage a week.
That's like totally opposite of the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to help people relax, and then you're completely stressed.
Yep.
That's
absolutely.
Crazy. I had no idea.
So when that was happening, I was a deep tissue specialty practitioner. So if you think about doing 35 hours of manual labor per week, every single week for 4 years, which you can do for sure. But by the time I left that space, I was burnt out. My arms hurt. I was completely drained, and my fitness wasn't the best. And so I thought that I was going to have to leave massage.
Oh, man.
I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this for the rest of my life.
That brings back a memory in my life when my first major, which some people are starting to find out, I had scholarships to go become percussionist in college. And it was taking what I loved into a career, and I thought I was going to be a famous rock drummer. And then I switched over to like music education. And then when I realized I was basically going to be in the practice room, like my arms actually hurt. So like, and it was like what I love and what I'm really good at is turning into something I just want to throw sticks at the wall.
Yep.
And like this, and and it's not the most pleasing. We talk about being open to nature. We know now I was literally in rooms, like people who can't see this, half the size of this with like timpanis. And so with no windows, and you doing that for like 4 hours a day, like if not more, it was like, so not that I can completely relate, but it's just like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like running a marathon every single day.
In a box.
In a box. On a treadmill. That doesn't go anywhere.
And it almost feels like forced too, because it's like you want to do the right thing. You don't want to upset your employer.
Yeah.
But it's also like, what's it worth? Because it's costing you your health when you're trying to provide health. And then are you really, I'm sure you were, but it's also like, I'm sure you might have questioned yourself. I imagine I would have, like, am I giving the best massage possible for what these people are paying for? Because by the 10th massage or whatever of the day, I'm exhausted. I'm burnt.
Yep.
I'm frustrated.
Yep.
Right. So how?
Yep. And if the conditions weren't perfect going into work in the first place, like you didn't get a good night's sleep or you didn't hydrate appropriately the day before, or it's your 4th day in a row of doing 6 or 7 massages a day, it just added up.
And then that's got to be stressful too, because you got to now I got to think about all these things I have to do right to manage all this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yep. And so from there, I said, I'm going to go back to school so that I have something to fall back on, which is when I went back for my psych degree. Went to MCC for 2 years.
That must have been beneficial too, learning about all that while you're dealing with all that.
Yeah. And I didn't have the tools then that I do now, obviously. So it was definitely a different time in my life, but it led me to where I am now. So I am grateful for it.
Yeah. So I think that's a great story to just show it was hard. You made it through, you got through. It was a teachable lesson. You learned how you were going to do your business, I'm sure. Right. Like how you're going to treat clients, but it got you to what you're also capable of.
Yeah.
Like what you're able to do. And it only made you stronger. That's really cool. Anything else you want to share on that as far as adversity or anything on that topic? It's such a good one. You had such a great story.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure something else will come up.
For sure. So you've always been, it seems like, I imagine, a lifelong learner, right? So you got diverse certifications and so how do I want to say this? How has being a lifelong learner helped you maybe thrive professionally, personally? Like, what are some of the things that you do use?
So being a lifelong learner is important for everybody. Find something that you're passionate about and just learn everything that you can. Everything that you possibly can get your hands on.
And then when you think you're done, you're probably not.
And then you realize what you don't know when you start learning about something. So what is it? They say that you need to practice something for 10,000 hours before you're actually a master in it.
Yeah. I think Bruce Lee's quoted at that, whether it's true or not.
Yeah. And I would say probably 20,000 hours.
I feel like you're always learning.
Yeah. There's always something that you can improve. There's always some little tidbit of information that you can just think about and just let it expand inside your brain and expand your whole entire being. There's always something that you can learn to improve yourself.
And would you say not just for your career, but also like personally, like even if you
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you do? Like, obviously we know your career. What about on a personal level? Is there anything you're doing right now that you're learning at or have been that you're trying to grow in or evolve in?
My current thing is I'm delving deep into gardening. What makes the whole entire earth tick, and trying to figure out how to make things grow in sand, because that's the soil that we have at my house.
Yeah, and that's what I was told with Ironically.
Yeah, yep. And I've been marginally successful, but not very successful. So now I'm diving deep onto soil stuff and what you can put into the earth in order to help foster a better environment for growing things. And then, that makes me think about the things that we put into ourselves. And then I dive deep into the physiology of how we digest things. It's this whole entire thought worm of life, Yeah.
I'm imagining Amanda's homestead. I remember listening and reading about Jewel and her little homestead life. And I was like, there's parts of that sounds really cool, but it's like, oh my God, they literally had to make their own water, essentially.
I don't know that I'll ever get
like
that
there
crazy.
wasn't indoor plumbing, I don't think, and just the whole life of it all. And I'm just like, oh, I was blown away. And this was, I think Alaska or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Something crazy. That's really cool. What about professionally? So that was a little personal, and you touched on a little bit, but like professionally, what do you do? You know, like how do you find information? Where do you look? Do you continue taking courses? What are some of the things?
All of the above.
Okay.
So your librarians are your best friends. They are superheroes. You can literally go to the circulation desk at any library and be like, hey, I'm interested in this, specifically this thing. What you got for me? And they'll be like, oh, ready to help you with all these suggestions. They get so excited. Go talk to your librarians. They're amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I've been subbing here for like a couple weeks now. And I've been in the library a little bit, and it's like these librarians, even in the schools, I'm like, they're so amazing. And like, they're so chill.
Yep.
And they're so excited, and they can manage different emotions and behaviors of the eclectic mix of kids there, and how they do it in such as like, and one of the women,
with grace.
I know. And they're like these sweet old ladies, but this woman's probably in her 30s. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like my grandma.
Yeah.
But she's 30. Like, they're a special breed. And I think you're right. We need to utilize them more. Yes, Amazon, you can get books, but you can't learn about so much stuff. And they're such a great resource, I think even better than ChatGPT right now. So that's such a huge tip for people to just go in there, especially if you're looking for a subject, wanting to learn more about a subject, or even the space too. They're so underutilized these days.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. And if you don't want to read, there's the Libby app that you can get books on. There's less how-to books and less, I would say, mind-expanding material than there is nonfiction on the Libby app. But they do have a whole bunch of audiobooks on there if you don't want to read. But also the librarians can hook you up with DVDs and resources for videos online, and
that's so great. I mean,
historians, if that's what you're into. Like, they literally have connections for everybody and everything.
My kid asked me what a DVD was the other day.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Did you then take them to the librarian?
Then I told him about VHS and like, what's that? And I told him, I was like, yeah, they didn't understand it. Yeah. I'm like, oh man. Yeah. And then we went to some museum and they saw an 8-track machine.
Ooh.
I think it was at the Museum of Play, maybe. I don't know. But they were somewhere where we saw an 8-track.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Mind blown again.
They just thought it was so old. Yeah. But honestly, speaking of Museum of Play, whenever we go, they love the classic old school games. Yeah. So we're one of those people that we don't own like a PlayStation. We don't own any gaming systems. I grew up with even a Sega Genesis and stuff, but like we've never bought one. I just get a family membership there. I know this is so sidetracked, but it's like, I think it's important too for listeners. Like, and then we just get this variety, and my kids always go to the classics. Like they'll love even just like Mrs. Pac-Man. There's one game in their new room there where their kids are just playing I could just leave them there for hours. Yeah, they'd be happy. It was your membership is cheaper than a PlayStation. Yep. Anyways, win. So we obviously you're into the human mind, the human body. Is there anything particular that initially fascinated you or currently fascinates you about the human body, the human mind? Oh man. I mean, there's a lot, right? We could talk about the eye, right? Like, but is there anything that just like comes to you in this moment or something you're like, I have moments where like, you know, for me, for example, like, yeah, I love a lot. I mean, I remember watching a 5-minute video on the human eye and I was just like, whoa. But for me, it's always comes back to like, especially since I have no appendix, always the gut. So like, I'm really just with the area of that and always learning to try to help myself as well as the majority of people I work with. Yeah. Is there anything you want to share that maybe a listener or viewer would blow their mind that you've learned recently? So originally, I went to something called Cadaver Lab with my sister. Well, that sounds cool. It's super cool. You get to see how the body is connected via muscles, tendons, and ligaments. It's really awesome. Where's that at? I can't remember. I think actually we went to the New York Chiropractic College and went into their Cadaver Lab. Okay. So the thing that fascinated me was they had broken down each
body into its parts and dissected everything. And you could see where everything connected, how you could connect the foot to the top of the head via a muscle line, how things move, and the fascia that encases everything safely, and the dysfunction that can happen in that, as well as the dysfunction that can happen in muscles. I mean,
that's fascinating.
Probably 5 years of research into that for me. It was just anything that I could gobble up, I just went after. It was great.
Wow. I just learned something. I didn't even know that existed. That sounds really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. If you want to learn about fascia, definitely look into Gil Headley. That is a rabbit hole that is amazing. And he has videos, literature, he has podcasts. I mean, he is the fascia king and
writing that down
describes it better than anybody that I know. So
sweet. Well, let's switch gears again. Hypnotherapy. I know listeners, or at least me, I'm always been curious. I mean, I reached out to you years ago and then COVID happened because I wanted to learn more about it. And so what got you curious into it? And then I would love to talk about maybe like debunking common myths and things of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So my very good friend, I was her support person for her labor and delivery for her daughter. And I'm pretty sure that everything that went wrong could and did go wrong. Unfortunately, she did not have a good time, and standing by almost helpless. I mean, being a massage therapist, I could help her with some body work while she was going through all of that. But standing by mostly helpless, I was like, there has got to be a better way to do this for women. And I started doing some research, and I looked into what they were calling hypnobirthing at the time, but that is a brand name. So I looked into programs for how I could start doing this, because what the research that I found, hypnosis for childbirth is, I thought it was the golden ticket when I first started researching it. I was like, this is the way. This is the way people should be doing things.
No pain.
Right.
Just slides right out.
Exactly. Help this woman along, please. So then I started looking into schools. There aren't very many of them around, unfortunately, but the Hypnotherapy Academy of America seemed like a good option for me. That's where I went for my schooling.
Good name.
It's great. The people who run that school are amazing. And it is a deep dive into the mind, into human behavior, into how hypnosis works, as well as having hypnosis done yourself. So it's kind of like massage school. You go and you not only get to learn all these wonderful things, but you also get to have the experience of hypnosis. And I really, really, really love the work. I've probably only worked with about a dozen moms, but that is what led me there originally, was that experience with my good friend. So
obviously that's a challenge. What other maybe personal challenges do you help people overcome? Is it a variety, or share some of those?
Yeah. So I am certified for medical hypnosis work. So I'm certified to work with people from all the way up, weight loss, smoking cessation, anxiety, depression, all of those things that you would normally associate hypnosis with. But I'm also certified to do medical hypnosis for complex medical conditions, helping people heal.
Like?
Anything and everything. I've worked with a lot of people who have some type of cancer diagnosis.
What about concussions?
I have worked with some people with traumatic brain injuries.
I think that's so well. So I'm in the hockey world now, and in sports, and just the amount of concussions and the effects and the things we're learning. I'm be amazed to see how hypnotherapy over the next decade, as all this seems to be evolving.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is super interesting stuff.
So I want to definitely talk about some clients and some cool stuff. But before we get there, what about some myths? There's obviously myths out there about hypnotherapy. Here you go, debunk.
The main one that always basically everybody that comes to my office asks me is, am I going to be in control of myself, or are you going to take control of my mind and make me do things that I don't want to do?
Yeah, I can see that.
So as a certified practitioner, my job is to help whoever is coming to my office achieve the results that they want in the fastest, easiest way that we possibly can. That does not include making you do things that you don't want to do. And that is not very ethical. So I would never do any of those things. The stage performers that do like the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah.
So those people are trained in a specific way to make you feel like you are not in control. The words that they use and the people that they choose are already primed for making, quote unquote, making them do something.
Yeah, I was one of those ones that got called up on stage, and he got me through some of it, and then I found myself on the floor, and then eventually I realized it was having no effect, so I got kicked off.
Yep.
Well, I'm just, anyways.
So that's the other thing, is that being in hypnosis will never make you do something that's outside of your moral code.
Yeah.
So you'll never do something that you don't feel.
I think that's because that's where it was getting into, was that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and it's like I came back on. It was the weirdest thing.
Yep.
It was like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
That's good to know. Hey,
Yep.
there's a nugget. So don't be afraid of going up on stage, even though they're circus performers, as you called it. So,
Yeah, that's probably the biggest myth that people come in with, and they realize very quickly after their first session that that's not what we're there for. That's not what happens at all. In fact, the hypnosis that I do with people is actually meant to give them more control of their own life. I'm just a fancy tour guide to give them more control of their life. That's it.
I like what you said there, to give them more control. I mean, I think everybody's looking for that, right? Because a lot of people feel out of control, and when you feel out of control, you see a lot of the things. You see violence, you see tempers lost, you see screaming. I was just, before the show went on, I was talking about my 8-year-old.
Yeah.
When she doesn't feel control, so she wants to take control,
Yep.
sometimes by force.
Yep.
So, man, I mean, it sounds like you said women, but do you just work with adults? Do you work with like teenagers or children or anything like that?
So those are special cases. The sessions are usually shortened. So I will work with kids who, there's a whole screening process that I go through. And if I need to refer out, if there's something else going on, if they're already not receiving other treatment, a lot of the times I'll refer kids out first, and then they'll come back and see me after a few months of being in therapy and working with a psychiatrist or a psychologist or in a program. But those are shortened sessions. So sessions for adults usually last 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on what we're doing, how many questions they have. Kids, 30 minutes. Generally, they don't have a whole lot of questions. Their sessions are very straightforward. Most of those sessions are to give them tools so that they can employ those tools in their life to have them feel like they have more control generally.
So 1987, went to see a hypnotherapist. I was 6 years old, and that's after our house burned down. And I remember the therapist telling me, after like 2 sessions, that I was good and I didn't need therapy. And I've always struggled with that. And I talked to a friend that I talked to you about, who's a psychotherapist, and he has a different approach. And I really like this. It's like, he doesn't try to find what's wrong. He how did he say it? He was more trying to, he doesn't find what's wrong with people. He just finds how they need help or what they're good at. And it's just a more positive approach to his therapy. And he didn't say anything about this because he didn't know the person, but it was just an interesting approach because of that. And I love, if you don't have any take on that, but I would love your curiosity on something like that. Like for somebody like me, and I know 80s is a way long time, but and I hope the guy has evolved, but like, to me, it gave me this false belief that nothing was wrong with me, but still I felt something like needed to be fixed, or there was always a challenge with that. So it sounds like what you're doing is way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And my My thing is that all of the experiences that I have with people are all client led. They're in control of the sessions, not me.
Yeah.
They tell me where they want to go. If that's what they think, some people are like, I don't know where I need to go. Let's explore what I need to do and where I need to go. But it is not my job to tell them that they're healed. It is my job to work with them to get them to a point where they feel confident that they can overcome whatever it is that they came in to see me for.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, you're good after 3 sessions. Generally what I tell people is most people achieve the results that they're looking for in 3 to 6 sessions, sometimes 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But then
I think I remember you saying that.
there's sometimes when people feel like there's something that comes up that they need to come in for a booster session for like 2 years later. I have that happen a lot. And so who am I to tell them that they don't need to come in? You know, if they still feel like there are avenues that they want to explore, that's for them to say, not me. I don't know what's going on inside their head.
Yeah. What about like a significant, I know like client, privacy, but is there anything you can share to a point like that you've helped somebody overcome something significant, that a health barrier or whatever, from whether it be hypnotherapy or whatever your practice is? I'd love to hear like a story if you're open to sharing something.
Yeah. So let's see. I do have permission from a few of my clients to share their stories. And the most significant one is this gentleman came in to see me he's 40 years old. He's never had a serious girlfriend. He would go out on dates and in 2 weeks he would sabotage the thing and it would all fall apart. So we ended up doing 5 sessions, and throughout the course of the 5 sessions and with the work that he was doing at home, because everybody who comes in gets accelerators, homework assignments to do between sessions when they see me. We ended up doing a regression session to find where this specific belief was coming from. He had an idea of what the belief was, but he wasn't quite sure where it came from, and he wanted to heal that. So we did a regression session for this lifetime, and he regressed back to, I believe it was the 1st grade. He ended up having this experience when he was in 1st grade where he was in class with all of his peers and his teacher, and he felt sick to his stomach, and he kept raising his hand and being like, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And his teacher kept being like, it is not time yet for questions. Wait until the end of this set, blah, blah, blah. She kept basically telling him that he needed to put his hand down and sit in his chair and be quiet. So he got to the point where he was actually going to be sick. So he gets up and he runs to the front of the classroom looking to get to the garbage can. And he just unfortunately gets sick all over this teacher's desk. So he has other kids in the class going, ew. And his teacher turns around with this horrified look on her face. So in that moment, he decided about himself that he was disgusting.
Isn't that crazy how we attach things? Wow.
Yep. And even though for the rest of the day, he had positive experiences with other women. So the teacher turned around, and after she got a hold of herself, she cleaned him up. She got the assistant teacher to come in. She walked him down to the nurse's office herself. The nurse, also a female, took really great care of him. Then his mom came and picked him up from school, and she took care of him for the rest of the day. But because there was this high emotion with his needs not being met from the teacher, being surrounded by all of his peers who were like, ew, gross, everybody gasping, she had this look of disgust on her face. That is what he took away from that moment. So he chose in that session to recolor the experience with the positive female experiences that he had after that, in order to heal that and bring about a different belief in his own mind about himself. And last time I knew, he had been probably 6 weeks after he had that session, he ended up having a lovely date with a young lady, and
awesome.
They had been together for 2 years after the last time I checked with him.
You're amazing. I love that story. Man, that's so cool because I mean, there's these, I don't even know why, but like there's experts on everything. And I love that you were able to do that with this man because I mean, I had a guy slide in my DM like a month ago, like trying to provide his service. I was like, dude, I'm happily married. And it's like the guy that's trying to like teach men how to hook up or whatever. And I'm like, I don't need a coach for that. For one, I'm happily married. Bro, why don't you look at my profile? But it's like, this sounds a healthy approach because they're actually finding healing as opposed to just like teaching some guys some skills or something, which is so great. We're coming close here on time, but I got a couple more here. I wanted to get into Reiki and your spiritual healing practices. I want you to talk a little bit about that, and maybe even share a story or struggle how you use that in your practices.
Reiki, I got into because one of the young ladies at the office that I was at, the Retreat House Massage and Wellness Center, she was doing wonderful work with energy work, and I was like, ooh, I want to do that. So then I did. I took level 1 Reiki certification, followed very closely by my level 2. And I started doing that work in 2007, I believe. 2007, 2008, I think. And I really didn't do a whole lot with it until probably the last 5 or 6 years when it started calling to me again. Like I did a lot when I first got certified. I did a lot of those sessions right when I first got certified, and then it kind of fizzled out and I didn't really do much with it for a few years. And then probably like maybe 6 years ago, I started really just offering it again and doing more promotions with it so that I could bring more people in. And now probably about 25% of my clients right now seek out some type of Reiki work, but those 25% that come in, they are strictly Reiki clients.
Okay. And so for those that aren't real familiar, what essentially is Reiki?
It is energy work. And basically my approach to it and the way that I learned it is using the client's own energy to help them unkink, balance, and ground themselves. So anywhere where there's some type of disruption in your energy force, I am just somebody who tries to help your own energy rework itself to become more functional.
I love that. I love your career path too. It's like you saw something or you heard something and it was like, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you got curious. It sounds interesting that you want to learn more. And 2, you thought it could help people.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I love the thing because it's so uniquely you, and it's very similar to mine. Mine was just a different path. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. I'll do that. So, and my wife sometimes like, you're like from here to the other, but it's always paid off, and it's always a trip for something else. So again, we're running short here, but like, I would love to know like where you see like the future of some of the holistic practices that you're doing, some of your philosophy, where you see of the integrative health as far as overcoming challenges, not just for the people that you're helping, but also like for yourself and how you're utilizing it into your life.
So future of the business, more of the same, continuing to learn and expand. And I have people who rent space from me, and we're always welcoming of new modalities and new practitioners into the office. We love having more support in the office.
And probably variety too, because it's always about finding the one that works for you.
Yep.
Like you can't help everybody.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, you already talked about that at the beginning. I guess you can't help everybody.
I would love to. There's only so many hours in the day, though.
And I'm sure, like through your learning, obviously it was to help people. I'm sure you use, and you've talked about some of it, but I'm sure there's things that you use in your own life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything you want to mention?
For
Just your own health.
keeping myself in.
Like, do you hypnotize yourself?
Yeah, I practice self-hypnosis.
That's
Meditation and self-hypnosis are super similar. The brain wavelengths are almost exactly the same. So
That's cool.
I do some type of meditation or self-hypnosis every single day. There can also be walking meditations. I wouldn't recommend self-hypnosis for it. There you can do light hypnosis while your eyes are open while you're walking with practice.
I want to learn so much more.
It's so cool.
I want to spend like a day with you on this. This is so cool. Anything else you like to share? Obviously, I want you to share like how people can get a hold of you, contact you, but anything on the things that we talked about, what you're doing that you just love to get out.
I don't know.
Is there any things in the future as far as like things you want to learn or like add to your repertoire of skills?
I think now I'm in this mode of trying to learn the most that I can about the things that I'm already doing. So, like I said before, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't realize how much you don't know until you start learning more about the things that you know about.
Yeah. There's one thing I forgot to ask you. Do you still do any kind of physical training, personal training? Because like something, I don't know if I ever told you, maybe I did, but like you were one of my favorites when I did CrossFit.
Thank you.
Well, it's just the way your approach, like you push and challenge it, but you did it in such a educational and kind and supportive. You were checked in. You were present. I felt you were present, which I think is missing in a lot of health professions. So I'll just say that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. How can people get a hold of you? How can people connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Form Integrative Health. You can also find me on my website at youareforming.com. All of my information for email and text message, phone, all of that stuff is on my website. You can also send me a DM through Instagram.
And we'll have that in show notes. So if you're driving and listening to this, please pause and just look at those later.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Anything else, Amanda? I mean, I'm sure we could talk for another hour, but we don't have it.
So I think the biggest thing that the world needs right now is for people to go out and just be kind to each other. There's this missing piece that I'm really feeling in the universe right now, that every single person on the planet is connected. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 degree of separation or 6. If you look deep enough, you're going to find a connection to that person that you're walking by in the grocery store or when you go on vacation. If you sit and talk to that person long enough, you're going to find a common thread.
Yeah. And I'll add, you get what you put out. When you put out kindness, you tend to get it back. But sometimes what you see in somebody else is a mirror back in yourself.
Yep.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yep.
So check that out. Well, thank you, Amanda, so much. This has been a real pleasure. And I know that you got a lot of nuggets and enjoyed that. And again, her information will be below. Please reach out to her or myself and we will connect you. But thank you for all those listeners, the viewers for our Strive 365 podcast. And you can do one thing to help somebody and be kind today. And that's sharing and liking, subscribing, because this is a completely free podcast put out for you to listen to, enjoy, and be educated and informed. And hopefully find some motivation to strive with some simple things every single day. So thank you again for tuning in to Strive 365. Take care.